us today on the Moms on a Mission podcast. This show will truly be one you will never forget. Ian Smith, a former gym owner in New Jersey, reviews his remarkable story and how his darkest hour was used to prepare him to stand when it counted. He has detailed this all in his new book, Find Your Hill. You won't want to miss this one. But first, it's important to know that the US dollar has lost 85% of its value since the 70s when the dollar was no longer backed by gold. With 88% of international transactions conducted in US dollars and the dollar accounting for 58% of global foreign exchange reserves, the dollar's global dominance has previously been indisputable. Yet, de-dollarization, or reducing the economy's reliance on the US dollar for international trade and finance, has been accelerating following the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The BRICS countries, which are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, these countries have been pursuing a wide range of initiatives to decrease their dependence on the dollar. Gold and silver are the only assets that will withstand inflation and de-dollarization. Invest in Beverly Hills Precious Metals today to protect your wealth. Go to bh-pm.com and tell them that Moms on a Mission sent you. That's bh-pm.com. And if you're not ready to invest today and just have a few questions, they would love to answer those as well. That's bh-pm.com. And as always, email us with any comments or questions at moms@momsonamission.net. That's moms@momsonamission.net. And please follow us on your favorite platform. Hey, Ian, welcome back to Moms on a Mission. Maybe we can make the news again this podcast.
Well, we'll certainly try.
Yes. So what I'm talking about, the last interview we had with Ian, it made it to Forbes. We found out this last weekend, Moms on a Mission, and Ian's statements about support from fellow patriots made the news apparently in a negative way. And so we got to ride the ride with him in Forbes. And so I was just thanking him for the national publicity. So maybe we can do that again.
The exposure. Yeah, of course.
Yes. So Ian, we're going to jump right into your book, Find Your Hill. These are my notes. I absolutely love this book.
Awesome.
Tell us why you wrote this book.
It's a good question. You know, I toyed with the idea of writing a book for a long time. You know, you obviously read the book, so this wasn't something that came about because of the story of my gym during COVID. You know, I had thought about writing a book a long time ago. I went away to prison when I was 21 years old, and spent the greater chunk of my 20s in prison, and I learned a lot. And I always wanted to write a book on the other side to hopefully share some of that experience with young men, or just people, young people especially, who may have the characteristics that I had, which was recklessness and selfishness and sort of a wild side and a disregard for kind of good rules, right? You know, I have a healthy disregard for bad rules, for tyranny and big government. But when I was younger, I had just a disregard for authority in any forms, whether it was a moral authority or a good authority or not, and it wound me up in a bunch of trouble. So, the idea originally spawned 15 years ago, 16 years ago, and I just never got around to it. And during the whole COVID nonsense, I thought, hey, this is a pretty interesting story as well. And then I kind of just started looking back on my life, and I've had some very, very unique experiences. Not to say that they're any more special than anybody else's, but I've been through a lot of hard times, and a lot of those hard times were very self-imposed. I grew up, we weren't rich by any standard, but like I never experienced real hardship as a child. I grew up in with a loving mother. She was a single parent. She worked her butt off. But we never went without. She had to work hard, but all of the trouble that I have experienced in my life, or most of it, has been at my own hands. So, I wanted to pack the book with some lessons in there, and hopefully people can understand, some really important things that I learned along the way. I don't want to give away the book, but, I discovered a personal power through the years that I'm very, very happy with, and that I want other people to understand. I always felt very powerless in the world when I was growing up. And I think that's kind of the underlying theme of the book altogether, is that, you're way more important than you think you are.
Yeah, that was something that I wanted to mention, is that you continue this theme throughout the book discussing the power of one individual. And that resonated so much with me. I think even in the world today, with everything that's happened since 2020, I think we can succumb to the lie that our voice is just one, and what can we individually do? And you just really so eloquently hammer that point home, that when just one person will stand up. I mean, you obviously are a prime example. All of America stood behind you.
Yeah. 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 I grew up, I don't discuss like too much of my childhood in the book, because I didn't want to make the book like this really long-winded experience. I wanted it to be something that you could pick up and read over the course of like a week very, very easily. So I didn't go into detail, but, I grew up a very unsure person. I was always the youngest kid in my grade. So I was always the smallest, the most underdeveloped. I was very, very shy when I was younger. I had like serious social anxiety issues. And I never really found my way until high school. And I found myself through kind of like the wrong channels. But that was all based on this idea that I was very powerless in the world, that I was just like I was very much the guy who could extremely easily get lost in the crowd. And I think a lot of people feel like that, and I think the world kind of makes us feel like that in a lot of ways today. Just the size and the pace of it all. It's very easy to get lost in the crowd. So we get this idea, implanted in our heads. I know I certainly did, and I know a lot of people who do too, is that, we're just one person. Like, what does it matter what we do? And that's just a very damaging thing to think about yourself. And I think that it's not only damaging, but I think it's very limiting. Because you think that you're not capable of making a change, or you think that you're not capable of like being a high performer, or whatever it is, or a good parent, or whatever it is. It's like, oh, well, my choices don't matter, and my life has repeatedly showed me otherwise, that the choices that I make for good and for bad. And you see two choices in the book at two different points in my life. You see bad choices and the dramatic impact that they had, and then you see the good choices I made much later and the dramatic impact that they had. So, that was a really important point for me, because I think that if people realize that, again, I know from my own personal experience, when I realized how important every single decision that I make is, my life started to get better very, very quickly. I found myself in much more control over my surroundings, but I found myself happier, more fulfilled, and really just feeling much better about myself overall.
Yeah. And without exposing some of the dreadful events that happened to really make you the man you are today, I noticed also another theme in your book, and that was one that you never quit. You had some horrific things happen, as you said, self-induced some, but man, you could have quit so many times, Ian. And I just wonder where you found the resolve and the grit to never give up.
Well, I think it came from a lot of places. Like when I was in prison, there were a lot of reasons I wanted to quit. I was dealing with some really, really heavy guilt, and remorse, that was like burying me alive. So I remember wanting to quit then, and really just like wanting not to be around anymore, not in like a suicidal sense, but like I almost was like happy at one point that I was away in prison, because I wasn't like a bother to anybody or a burden. And then I wanted to quit in prison. Like there were times throughout the 5 years that I did. It wound up, all said and done, I had to serve 85% of my sentence. So I wound up serving just under 5 years, about 4 years, 8 months, and 1 day. Who's counting, but
Right.
there were points throughout that where, I was just so exhausted. And the end felt so far away. I think I write about it in the book. I may have taken that part out, but there was a point pretty early on, like I was less than a year in, and I remember thinking like, wow, these past couple of months went really fast. Like this, maybe this isn't going to be so bad. And then like I started to do the math in my head, and I was like, oh my God, I have to do that like 15 more times, and all of a sudden like the walls closed in on me. So I wanted to quit then, but for every reason I didn't, or every time I didn't quit, there was a different reason. I think, when it came to not quitting in prison, I just didn't want that to be the last chapter of my book. You know, no pun intended. I didn't want it to be like, oh yeah, you remember that kid Ian Smith that we went to high school with? Oh yeah, whatever happened to him? Oh yeah, and he went off to prison. Nobody ever heard from him again. So I was like determined. I also, and it's funny, I thought of this at the time, and years later when I met a motivational speaker, he spoke about the same thing. I was listening to an event, and he said he would make up these scenarios in his head where he was in competition with everybody. And that's kind of like what I did. Like I created this competition in my head where it was like, I'm going to show them. I'm going to show everybody who doubted me. I'm going to show everybody. And like, these people weren't thinking about me. Like they were off at college. Like they weren't thinking about me at all. Nobody was thinking about me. When you go away to prison, the world forgets you exist. Even the people that love you, it's very long and lonely. So I was determined, and I would manifest, and I would envision this life on the other side where people would be impressed that I didn't fail. That it was like, oh man, we really wrote this guy off, and here he comes, just passing all of us, metaphorically in our lives. So I use that every single day. And that's actually one of the reasons I got into fitness. I got into fitness in prison, or going into prison. And it was because I was small. I was like, people see me today and they're like, oh, what did you play football in high school? No, I weighed 165 pounds in high school. And I was afraid of my own shadow. You know what I mean? Like, so no, not at all. I started working out because I was like, oh crap, I'm going to go to prison. I should probably start lifting some weights or something. But when I was in prison, there was a lot of reasons that kept me going. Is one thing, it was an anchor. It was something that I could, and I talk about that in the book, where it's an anchor that I tied myself to, that no matter what was going on in the craziness and chaos, or the sadness of the environment, I had something that nobody could strip from me. But also it became this thing where I was like, I was out to prove something. I was going to come out, and I wanted people to be like, whoa, what happened to Ian Smith, the 165-pound kid who went away at 21 years old? So that's it. I had to create a scenario where I couldn't quit.
And you almost were going to some type of self-improvement 5-year seminar.
What'd you say?
It's like you were going to a self-improvement 5-year getaway, if you will.
Yeah. It's, if you make it that's absolutely what it is. And most people who go to prison come out worse than they went in. Whatever bad characteristics that they have, selfishness, anger, violence, drug abuse, alcoholism, addiction, whatever it is, most people come out worse than they went in. And it's very easy for that to happen in prison because it's a very negative environment. It's hyper violent. It's hyper masculine to like a fault. It's just not a fun place. So it's very easy to go in there and you come out angrier. You come out with a bigger chip on your shoulder. And I just didn't want to be that. So I found a small group of guys, and a lot of times it was very lonely. Guys that did not want to be a part of gang activity, guys that didn't want to, just do drugs and, like just kill the time. We were a bunch of guys that stuck together, even if we weren't kind of in the same units, or even if we went off to different prisons. We would write each other, and we would talk about books, and we would talk about what we wanted to do on the outside. And through all of that, I created a scenario where I couldn't quit. because I had envisioned something so great that it was like, let me just try. Let me just try to get through this as best I can. And then that kind of happened again, with the COVID scenario. It was like we created a scenario where it was like we couldn't quit. Like we were like, all right, we're going to open the gym, and we're going to open it publicly, and we're going to open it loudly, and the whole world is going to be watching, and we are going to take a stand, and we're going to do it in such a way that like there's no quitting, like there's no backing down. And that was kind of like the thing that got us through, is that we made that promise to each other when we decided that we were going to reopen after, a couple of days of being shut down. We made the promise. It was like, until the wheels fall off. Like we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what this is going to look like. We don't know how hard it's going to be. We know it's the right thing to do. We know that we have to do it in order to survive. And we're just not going to quit, no matter how bad it gets. And when you adopt that attitude, it's very, very hard to fail. Because I convinced myself, and we were right, that the fate of the world depended upon our actions. And to a small degree, we were right. So it's all about setting up that mindset, I think, for yourself, where again, you recognize the importance of what you're doing. You recognize the importance of all your actions, be them on a micro scale or cumulatively on a macro scale. And then it becomes almost like a duty not to quit. It becomes like some sort of thing that you have to fulfill, like a mission, you know what I mean? And then from there, you're able to kind of draw from that mindset. When you're really tired and when you're really, exhausted. And then the other thing is, how did I not quit? I've always been surrounded by really good people. I think that's a very important point to make outside of everything I just said. When I was in prison and times were really hard, my mom is a walking saint. She did everything in her power to make sure that I had like a visit every weekend, even if it was just her. She coordinated with friends and family. She drove people there. Like she did her absolute best to be there with me, even when she wasn't. And she rallied a lot of other really good people around. And then, in the case of the gym, we were surrounded by good people. You've witnessed it. A lot of those good people are from the Reawaken tour. Or have contributed or watched the Reawaken tour in some sense. And if it wasn't them, it was our gym members. And if it wasn't our gym members, it was our friends and family. And if it wasn't our friends and family, it was people who didn't even work out, who just saw the gym as something that they needed to support. I mean, we sold T-shirts in order to stay open because we weren't charging our members. And people bought T-shirts from all around the country. I mean, like just thousands and thousands of them. People had T-shirts. We had like different colors, and they had like each color. There was, 7 or 8 different colors, whatever it was. And people had every single one of them because we were doing what they thought was really important. And they were willing to support us, to great ends in a lot of cases. So I think why I didn't quit, it was 2-part. It was the setup of the mindset, and the realization that what you do is important. And that kind of manifests the second one, right? When people believe in you and you're doing good things, they tend to support you. So you have to find those people and obviously reciprocate that report and your support in whatever way you can.
Well, you mentioned the Reawaken America tour. I remember going to the first one in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. And I remember seeing you for the first time on stage there and hearing your story. And I was just appalled. And I couldn't get down to the stage fast enough to put my money in the hat because
There's so many people.
There were thousands filing down the line to give you money to support you in your efforts. And I've noticed that if just one person will stand, they're just looking for one to follow and to support. And clearly you understood that and knew that your choice mattered, not just to you, but to the nation and even the world. I think you in your book, or at some point you told me that you had people contacting you outside of the United States.
Yeah. I mean, we had people in Australia. One of my favorite memories of the COVID, call them the COVID years, it was like in the thick of COVID, like late 2020, early 2021. And, we used to get letters all the time. People would handwrite letters. People would call us. People would write emails. People were always sending prayers, donating to the GoFundMe, buying T-shirts, calling and asking for advice. And somebody sent us a package, and it was from Australia, and it was a newspaper clipping. And it was the front page of the newspaper, and the headline said something about I think it was South Wales protests against COVID, and it's this guy, and he's standing down a police line. It's just him, and he's wearing a shirt. That's the shirt from the gym. It says Belmar for everybody on it. And he's got one of the hats that I made. I made these hats that said "Make politicians afraid again." And he's waving this Australian flag, and it's just like, holy crap! Like, man, we just thought we were opening a gym. Like, we didn't know it was going to reverberate that far, but it did, and that was one of those like moments. I mean, I had a lot of them. That was one of those moments where I was like, oh wow, my choices do matter, because the reality is. And this is no disrespect to anybody who did this or anything like that. It's certainly not a cheap shot, but like, we could have taken the easy route and just like opened the back door and like survived, right? And it's like a lot of people did that, and I don't fault anybody for it. It's very, very hard to do what we did. Not everybody had, we had a really good scenario. We had each other, we had two partners who were exactly on the same page, and we had a gym full of fanatics who were like, no, I need to come work out. You know what I mean? Because again, that goes back to one of the reasons we opened is, we had a gym full of people that it's not workout for like it. Nobody's vain in there. I mean, yeah, people look good, but like a lot of these people work out for mental health. They work out because they're on the other side of addiction, and they're in recovery, or they have, serious mental issues that they just need to work out, or they're just trying to be healthy. So these are people that understand, the importance. So we had that, and a lot of people didn't. But anyway, we didn't understand how big it was. We could have just said, okay, let's open the back door, let's get by. But it was like, no, like, this isn't like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not sneaking around because, Governor Murphy said I have to. No, like, I'm not doing that. But we didn't realize that was going to turn into what it did. For us, it was a matter of practicality. We are not going to survive this shutdown. And hopefully some other people get inspired, because they're not going to survive either. But that really small choice, it could have been something else. It could have been, you know what? Let's just open the back door. And that would have dramatically changed things for us. Nobody would know the story of the gym, because it wasn't anything spectacular, but we saw over and over again, another time when I realized how big it was. I said this in the speech last weekend is, on the first episode of Tucker Carlson, first of all, that was, even before that, him calling me, I was like, oh wow. Oh, oh, okay. Like, Tucker Carlson, you want me to come on your show because of my gym? But right after that episode, that first episode, which was 1 week before we opened, and it was 7 weeks into the shutdown, my phone was like smoking after the episode. There was like text messages and emails and this and that. And I remember in that one moment after I had, looked at all the notifications, on the ride home, I looked at my phone, and my follower count went from like a couple thousand to like 40, 50,000 in like an hour. And I was like, man, this is bigger than I thought it was. Like, this is, and most of them were people like, thank you, thank God, somebody's got to do it. We support you. Can I come work out? I mean, there was a couple like, you murderer, you grandma killer, but most of the people, and that was another moment. And there's dozens of them where I was like, wow, my choice did this. And the reality is that we're all confronted with choices that can change the course of your life and everybody's life around you every single day. You know, not every single choice is going to be like that, but if you don't look at every single choice as an important one, you'll miss that. We knew that was an important choice. We knew it. We knew, we didn't understand what it was, but we knew, hey, this is our decision factor here. Do we stay shut down? Do we do this? No, we do the right thing. We know this is right. In front of God, in front of my family, and I didn't have children at the time. In front of my children, I would have been 100% sure of that decision. But it was like, man, that's going to be the really hard choice. Like there's 3 other ones that are easier. Or at least in the meantime, they're easier. But it was like, nope, we make that choice and we do it. And chances are there's a lot of those moments that go through every single one of our lives. So it's super important that you realize what you're capable of. And as the theme of the book is how much personal power you actually have in this big chaotic world.
Well, one theme I also found in here was that you were not afraid. And if you were afraid, you did it anyway. And I believe that's the definition of courage, is being afraid and doing it anyway. And I couldn't help but think in Romans 8:28 in the Bible, it says all things work together for the good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And it just seems like God really used the trauma and some of the dreadful events that occurred that put you in prison, and then your prison life, how that made you the man and the patriot who loves freedom, values freedom, because you've lost your freedom. And so you stood for freedom. Right. So I was just curious, were you afraid when you went into prison? Were you afraid when you stood and said, you will not close my gym? Were you afraid on those occasions and you just did it anyway?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was absolutely terrified in both cases. And that was good for me. I think we all need to experience that, because I can remember in either case, before I went into prison, I was terrified. I was so terrified that I was almost like not even there. Like I was like scared out of my body. And it was so terrifying that what was so terrifying is that I knew this was happening no matter what. I was going to prison no matter what. Or I was going to lose my business no matter what. If I stood there and didn't do anything, that gym would not have survived. It wouldn't have. We were a brand new business. We didn't have months and months and months of cash flow sitting in reserve, just like most small businesses. And the same thing, when it came to prison, I was like, if I just stand here, this place is going to eat me alive. Like, I've got to get moving. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what tomorrow brings. I don't know what I'm doing here at all, but I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to just put one foot in front of the other, and I'm going to step in. And it's like, I talk about a lot during my speeches with COVID, but you can use either example. That first step is always the hardest. It's always when you're most scared. The first step is the hardest thing that you will have to do. Is just have the courage to say, I don't know what's next, but I have faith that I am going to be okay. And that faith, for me, eventually came from God. At first it didn't. I not that I was ever like a non-believer. I just grew up kind of not knowing, and I was like that for years. Spiritual, where like I'm not stupid enough to think that like there was just some random explosion and I'm like a highly evolved monkey. But I'm not sure enough to know what is more powerful than me. I just know that I'm a very small piece of the puzzle. But through those really hard choices, like faith was introduced to me. Like when I had the courage to make that first step, faith is kind of like what caught me. You know what I mean? And faith is what held me up through that when it got so scary. And when it got just absolutely terrifying. And there were no answers to the questions. Faith is the thing that stood me up and allowed me to stay standing and moving in the absence of certainty and in the absence of any answers. So yeah, I was absolutely afraid. And but those moments, like those couple little moments, I can remember the two moments in particular, in each of those circumstances. The first moment the first night I spent, and I woke up the next morning in prison. And I just remember being like, okay, still here. Like, still don't know what I'm going to do, but like, I made it. I made it through one day. I made it. I'm okay. And I remember even more powerfully, the day that we opened, Governor Murphy had sent an order to the local police department that we were not to be allowed into our own building on Monday morning. We were set to open on a Monday morning. So of course we went in Sunday night and chained ourselves in, and we had a whole bunch of volunteers, and we put paper up on the windows and stuff. And throughout the night, like early in the morning, you could hear the crowd gathering. Like first it was a couple people, then it was like 100, and like the sun was peeking up, and it was like 200-300, and then like it was packed. Our entire parking lot had cars in it, and there was a big crowd. I remember like the last couple minutes before we opened, just being like just so scared that like all I could do was smile. Like I was just like, okay, like here we go. It's almost like when you're climbing a roller coaster and it gets really slow up at the top, and then it's like something's coming, some sort of rush or feeling. And I just remember looking at my partner at the time, and we both didn't even have words. Like we were just like, you ready? And it was like in my head, I'm like, no, but it's like, yeah, I'm ready. And we bumped fists, and we took the chains off the doors, and then we opened it up. And there was just there's a picture that somebody took from behind us, and you can see both of our heads walking out. And it's like, we're walking out of this darkness into the light. And that was probably one of the most powerful moments in my life, because it was like, even though obviously like nothing was going to happen to me right there. It's not like the cops were going to like, be waiting there with their handcuffs and their batons to like beat me and arrest me. But it was like, we did it. We took the first step. Now what? And then everything starts to come at you so fast that you almost don't have time to be afraid anymore. Because it all starts coming. Life starts hitting you really fast. And you're like, okay, all right, okay, we got to get members in the door. All right, members in the door. All right, well, who's doing this? Who's doing that? And then next thing you know, the day's over, and you're like, all right, cool, we got some tickets, I guess, but we're all right, And then, all right, well, let's see what tomorrow brings, And tomorrow the punishment was a little bit of work. The next day the punishment was a little bit worse, but we had already been punished. We had already taken that first shot on the chin, and we were like, all right, like what else you got? Oh, you gave us citations yesterday. Oh, you're going to give us more today? Okay, like cool, And then it's like, oh, Friday you're going to lock our doors? Okay, well we'll pick the locks, because we just kept getting hit. And every time we got hit, every time life hit us, it was like, I'm stronger than I thought I was. That didn't kill me. That didn't ruin my life forever. And then you look back, right? You look back, towards the end of it, when we're getting fined $15,497 per day. And we have 5 years of prison time hanging over our head and all this. And you wonder how you got there, but you just get there by taking that first step.
And I just couldn't help but notice they're threatening you with 5 years of prison, and you're probably thinking, been there, done that. You're not going to scare me. And I really believe the Lord used some of your poor choices, some bad things that happened to you that were not your choice, maybe some of your upbringing and your childhood, And he was using that, just like with Joseph, all the bad things that happened to him, his brothers selling him into slavery, and yet he's going to be king. And he's probably in the bottom of the pit. His brothers are thinking about killing him. And he's thinking, how on earth am I going to be king? But yet God took him through the scenic route and made him king. And so I couldn't help but believe that when I was reading Find Your Hill, because this was your story. This was a story of sadness, despair, and then God supernaturally turned it into one of hope and inspiration. And that is how I felt when I read your book. It made me want to go work out. It made me want to put up an American flag. It made me want to stand up and speak up in every situation. And so when the Moms on a Mission podcast started, I was thinking about pillars and some words to describe the mission. And I felt like the Lord told me to use educate, awake, and activate. And it's impossible to become activated when you're not aware of the truth and what's going on. And so my personal journey started with taking that first step as well. And so I was wondering what, as we close this interview up, what you would say to moms who might be afraid of being targeted if they speak out at school, or go to a school board meeting, or go to a city council meeting, or get involved and they're afraid of personally being targeted or their kids being targeted. What would you say to them to encourage them?
Man, there's a lot I can say. I'll try to keep it short. First of all, you have to realize, I think, the ugly truth in all of this, and I may have even said this in our last interview. The ugly truth is that we're all faced with two choices right here in terms of like where our lives are going, collectively, where our lives are going, where our children's lives are going. The world is a very changing place. It's changing all the time. And if you don't speak up and you don't participate and you don't engage and you don't encourage others to do the same, then essentially what you're doing is exchanging long-term comfort and sustainability and that place that you want to be for a little bit of comfort in the meantime, right? So like people didn't want to, a stupid example, but you can apply this to everything, but like people didn't want to not wear the masks on the planes because it was like, well, what am I going to do? Not travel? And it's like, yeah. Because if everybody does that, they'll stop. But if everybody does it, they're not going to stop. So it's like you're always, when you're not speaking up, when you're not, disobeying orders or whatever it is, showing up at school boards, you're just giving up little by little by little. And the only thing that you get out of it is like just a little bit of comfort right now. A little bit of comfort right now, a little bit of comfort right now, but eventually you're all the way over here and then you don't have anything to stand on. You've given up all your ground. You're on the edge of the cliff. And then you're really uncomfortable and it's really bad and you don't have a place to fight from. Or the other choice is you can say, okay, I'm going to go to my school board meeting and I'm going to speak up. And there may be some people in my town who are nasty to me. They might say mean things online. They might find out skeletons in my closet. In my case, like I was an easy target. People just Googled my name and found out all sorts of bad stuff about me. They may make fun of me. My kids may even suffer a little bit. But I'm going to draw the line right here. And we're not going to wind up here. So no matter what you do to us, you can say whatever you want, because the reality is that most of these things are much scarier than we think they are, or not as scary as we think they are. Excuse me. They're not. People talking crap about you online will not kill you. Like I can affirm for that. I mean, I have a block list on every social media platform that's a 1,000, 10,000 names long. That won't change your life. It won't change your life in a negative way, especially if you just learn to go click block. Because those people don't add value to your life anyway. And even if they did, they're not your real friend. If they're going to attack you in some way, you don't want those people in your life anyway. See you later. Your life's going to be better without them. So You draw that line, you accept the consequences that are here, and you never get to that really bad place. You say, no, thank you. I'm going to stand my ground here. I'm not going to wear the mask. I'm not going to, I'm not going to let you teach my kids about oral sex in second grade. I don't care what you call me. I don't care what you call my husband. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care if I'm the only one saying it. I'm going to fight and I'm going to fight. And if I have to, I'll pull my kids out of school and I'll make that sacrifice. But we're not crossing this line. And what happens is you're now in control of where you are, but also what happens to you. You become in control because you draw the line, you say no more. And I think that's really important to remember because that first step here is really hard. But giving up everything slowly over the course of the next 5-10 years. I mean, we don't even have to think 5-10 years. Look at what's happened in 2, right? Look at the ground we've given up in 2 years because people didn't want to get out and vote, or we couldn't get enough movement behind election integrity, or whatever it is. Republicans turn out in dismal numbers. That's just, I ran for Congress. 13% of people went out and voted during the primary. And then they said, oh, you didn't win? Oh, I was looking forward to voting for you. You didn't show up at the primary. That's a whole nother thing. That first step is really hard, but it doesn't get harder than that. That's the thing. And you get to keep what you love. You get to keep your values. You don't have to sacrifice anything that you don't willingly want to sacrifice. And you're in control. Here, this feels like control little by little, but you're going like this. You're going and you're going and you're going and you're going. And then all of a sudden, one day you wake up and you can't afford to pay your bills. And you can't afford this. And you can't speak up because you're silenced and this. And you have a job and you're on digital currency or whatever. Whatever ground you've given up, it's an ugly place. I would much rather be here, fight. And then you realize it's not even that hard. It's not. It's not that hard. The things that you are afraid of are not as scary as you think they are. Again, the name call, like people are so afraid of being like battered online. I mean, I have had articles written about me with hundreds of millions of views. I made the front page of the Drudge Report, which is like one of the most, I think it's the most viewed website in the world. And the article just tore me to shreds. Well, I am totally fine. I'm here to report that I'm totally good. My life's fine. I'm not destitute. I have plenty of friends and family who love me. And guess what? Everybody who read that article and were like, yeah, he is a piece of crap, blah, blah, blah. They forgot about it anyway. They're on to the next thing. You know what I mean? So that's point number 1. And then really just to kind of wind it up, point number 2, freedom is an interesting idea. And I think that a lot of people forget that it comes with responsibility. If you want to be a free man, you want to be a free woman, you want to be in control of your life, that also means that you are 100% responsible for your life. So that means when something is wrong, you have to fix the problem. Nobody's coming. If you want to be free, nobody's coming to save you. If you don't want to be free, every politician will save you. They'll tell you they'll save you, and they'll quote save you from something, and your life will wind up to be miserable. But if you want to be a free person, it comes with a lot of responsibility. A lot of responsibility. Think about the people that our ancestors and the founding fathers and the people that created this country, right? This country is one of the greatest experiments in the world. The idea of free people, freedom for them meant getting on a wooden ship, crossing a big ocean with stars to navigate and wind. And then the first thing they had to do when they got here was kill something to eat and build a house for themselves. So that's a lot of responsibility. Right. And this country is filled with generations of people who settled the West and who, fought in the Civil War and fought against this and fought against that. There's a responsibility that comes with freedom. And if you, and I don't mean this as an insult, but if you can't accept the responsibility to get up off your butt and go to a school board meeting, then maybe you don't deserve to be free. Maybe you're somebody who needs to be told what to do. Maybe you should just accept that as your fate, because that price is a very small one. And as soon as you pay that price, you'll know that I've told you the truth, because you'll go to that school board meeting and your voice will tremble the first time you speak, and you'll be like up at the podium and shaking, and you probably won't say everything that you wanted to say, and some of it might not make sense and some of it will, but when you go sit back down, you will feel more powerful than you've felt in a very long time. And then you'll do it again, and then you'll do it again, and then you'll do it again. By the time you get that fourth or fifth speech out, people in the crowd are going to be going, she's right. She's right. I like that lady. And that's the way it all works, whether it's a school board meeting or otherwise. And that, again, comes back to the point. You are far more important and far more powerful than you could ever imagine. And if you want this country to be a free place, if you want to be free and you want your friends and family and all these people to be free, then that is your part that you have to play, big or small. Doesn't matter if you're going to a school board meeting, doesn't matter if you have a small podcast and you only have a couple hundred listeners to start out with. It doesn't matter if you have to do it at work, whatever it is. Once upon a time, I was just an obscure gym owner in a quiet corner of South Jersey, and I made one choice, and now I'm not so small, and whatever. So that's nothing special. That is within each and every one of us. But you will not notice it until you do it.
I completely agree. And that's exactly what happened with me. My knees were knocking. I was scared.
Yeah.
And the more you do something, you just get more comfortable with it. And
now you're like, ooh, me first.
Yes, I have something I'd like to say now. And I'm not nervous. Thank you very much.
It's true, though. It is.
It is so true. Everything you've said is true. And I just have to say, when I read your book, I could not put it down. I joke about this, but I was up till past midnight. And my husband said, could we please turn the lights off? And I said, oh yeah, I just lost track of time, but your book is so good. I was so inspired by it. I just glanced through it from time to time just to get motivated and to remember the truthful things that you've spoken in here. And I just wanted you to share, where could folks best find this to purchase Find Your Hill?
Findyourhillbook.com is where you can purchase it right there. I sign all of the books, so if you order it from me, I'll sign it. I believe we still have a code active for you guys. I'll make sure, but it's MOMS. And I think we were doing free shipping or something like that. It's like a couple bucks off where it's free shipping, something like that. I'll make sure that's active. You can also order it from like Barnes and Noble and Amazon. I don't touch the book if that's the case, but you'll just get it shipped directly to you from a bookstore. But yeah, you can order it from either one of those places, and you can find all those links on my social media, on Twitter and on Instagram. It's Ian Smith Fitness. And yeah, tell me what you think about the book. You can shoot me an email afterwards, and I hope that if you pick it up, that you enjoy it, and that you get through it quickly, because I don't want to take all of your time. I just want you to learn a couple lessons and go apply them to your life.
Yeah, it was such a great book, and you did a wonderful job. It really felt like we were just sitting down and having coffee with you, and you were just sharing a few things about your life and what led you to where you are today. It was so inspiring, but it went by really fast. It's such a great read. So thank you so much for writing it. I know I appreciate it, as does all of America. So thank you. Go to findyourhillbook.com and get your autographed copy today of Ian's book, Find Your Hill. So thank you, Ian, so much for joining Moms on a Mission podcast today. I'm so grateful.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And thank you all so much for listening. And as always, if you have any comments or questions, email us at moms@momsonamission.net. That's moms@momsonamission.net. You can check us out on our website at momsonamission.net. And please follow us on your favorite platform. Our favorite is Rumble, because we're not censored. So if you'll go to Rumble today, even if you're on YouTube, if you'll follow us on Rumble as a backup, because we have 2 hits on YouTube. So one more and we're out, and we don't want to be MIA. So go to Rumble today. Look for Moms on a Mission and just click the follow icon, and then like and share the episodes as well. So thank you so much for listening today, and God bless. In light of recent bank volatility and skyrocketing inflation, diversification is a must. That's why I use my good friend Andrew Sorcini at Beverly Hills Precious Metals. Beverly Hills Precious Metals makes it so easy to diversify. I personally ordered some silver and it arrived on my doorstep just a few days later. They make it so easy. And if you're not ready to do that and you just want to ask a few questions, they're there for you too. I personally got some silver and also am rolling over some of my IRA. You can actually roll over your IRA and have it be backed by silver and gold. So if you don't have any extra money to invest in silver and gold, rolling over a 401k or an IRA, or even part of it, if you just want to try it at first, just for a little bit, you can do that as well. So go to bh-pm.com today and ask all your questions. You can connect with somebody. And like I said, you can just get some information at first if you want and pray about it, and then get back with them to roll over part of your IRA or all of it, or order some gold and silver. That's bh-pm.com. and tell them that Moms on a Mission sent you. Hey, everybody. Did you know that recent research from the CDC says that millions of Americans develop parasitic infections and symptoms often go unnoticed or are misdiagnosed? Parasites are actually the cause of many health problems such as anxiety, depression, chronic pain, fatigue, and unexplained digestive issues. We all need a common sense strategy to improve our health. Moms on a Mission encourages you to reach out to our good friend, Dr. Jason Dean. Dr. Dean's Full Moon Protocol provides all natural detoxification and fights inflammation. And the supplements are made with 100% organic ingredients and are proven to kill parasites safely and effectively. I know after I took Full Moon Protocol, I had more energy. To order your Full Moon Protocol today, go to bravetv.store/mission to save $20 off your first order. That's bravetv.store/mission. According to leading sleep experts and sleephealth.org, over 50 million Americans struggle getting a good night's rest. That's why Moms on a Mission loves MyPillow. MyPillow makes amazing pillows, sheets, mattress toppers, robes, towels, literally almost everything you need for a good night's sleep. They also make dog beds for your dogs. So by going to mypillow.com, typing in the code MISSION, you not only receive a high quality product, but you're supporting Moms on a Mission and this podcast. If you like what you're hearing and you agree with it, you believe in it, and you want to support Moms on a Mission, then go to mypillow.com today and order some high quality products and just type in the code MISSION at checkout and you can save up to 66% off. That's mypillow.com, code MISSION.
Since 2014, Organic Body Essentials has offered clean, simple, certified organic skincare. Our organic face-to-feet and federally compliant hemp and pet products are manufactured under USDA and FDA guidelines. Our products are inspired by God using plants He created. In Ezekiel 47:12, it says, "The fruit is for food and the leaves for healing." We believe in the power of God to heal, so we pray over our products and for our customers. Our therapy in a bottle approach has been widely received, and our customers' testimonials continue to inspire us. You can find us at organicbodyessentials.com and obe.organicbodyessentials.com. Please feel welcome to reach out with questions. Use coupon code MISSION at checkout for a discount. Thank you for your support by using MISSION at checkout to benefit Moms on a Mission and their quest to reestablish traditional values in our education system and empowerment for a healthy lifestyle.